Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Hogarth's Global Astrology. Know your planets, know yourself, or even know your nation, know yourself. The two are interchangeable. Okay, so I am today's deep dive. This is actually going to go out to my membership first, and then I'll probably release this maybe next week or something like that. But the membership are getting first dibs on this one, and quite a few of you asked. So by popular request, I'm going to look at the chart of Jada Pinkett Smith. Yeah, I'm going to look at her chart, do a deep dive. I've looked at it already. I've already got up on my software, and I can instantly see what is going on there, particularly in regards to marriage, which of course everyone is going to want to know about, with her interesting and rather unusual marriage to Will Smith. And we'll be looking at a little bit of like her career and those elements there as well, how that all fits in and dovetails together. If any of you, when I'm putting this out to the public, if you would like a consultation with me, then of course please visit my website, which is in the video description, which is hogarthglobalastrology.com. When you go there, it will still say the archetypalblueprint.com, but it's me. It's still the same website. And you can just go there to consultant section, and there you can see everything, and you can read the reviews as well on Facebook, etc., and all of that stuff. Just scroll down. For some reason Facebook hasn't put them in date order. It's just one of those things, but just extraordinary feedback, and it's just so interesting. I love reading people's charts and solving mysteries and helping them understand their careers, or helping them overcome health issues, or love, romance, the classics, the classics, and then some. Parents, children, brothers and sisters. We've all been there. So if you are watching this once I've released it to the public, please don't forget, of course, to like and subscribe, click share, and click the notification button, because it really does help. Honestly, it really does help. It helps the grow the channel and get some more people can see and appreciate the powers of Vedic astrology. Thank you too as well for all the compliments on my last Taylor Swift video that I did. A lot of people found that intriguing, and when you see this, I've got today, which obviously won't be relevant for when you're seeing this video. I'm also releasing my Edgar Casey video, which I did over a month ago, actually, for the membership. And I just thought that would be a nice one for a lot of people to see, to understand really what goes into the energy, making someone as gifted and as psychic as he is. But this is going to be about Jada, Jada Pinkett Smith. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to share my screen with you. And we're just going to do the little bit of the old wiki, the old wiki licky, which I just read before, just to see, if there was a correlation there, strong correlation with her chart and her career. So let's just click on this here, and I'll just do share now. And here we are. You should be able to see this. So here we are, Jada Pinkett Smith, and I'm not going to click off or anything like that, because once I've shared the screen, you should be able to see it just fine. So let me just see here. If I go into, yeah, there it is. There it is for all to see. So I'll just click back. So here we are. So I'm just quickly going to read this little bit here, because otherwise these things get too long. So Jada Corinne Pinkett Smith, born September 18th, 1971, is an American actress and talk show host. She is co-host of the Facebook, of the Facebook Watch talk show. I didn't even know that was a thing. Red Table Talk, for which she has received a Daytime Emmy Award. So congratulations on that, Jada. Time named her one of the 100 most influential people in the world in 2021. Pinkett Smith landed her big break in the sitcom A Different World in 1991. She went on to star in films such as Menace to Society, The Nutty Professor, Set It Off, Scream 2, before prominent contributions to The Matrix Reloaded. I always have to remember that. She was a lot in The Matrix. So Matrix Reloaded, 2003, Matrix Revolutions, 2003. And the animated Madagascar film. She returned to television with starring roles in Hawthorne and Gotham. Her other acting roles include Magic Mike XXL, Bad Moms, Girls Trip, and the Matrix Resurrection. So 2021. In 2002, Pinkett launched a music career as the lead singer and songwriter of the new metal band Wicked Wisdom. So we'll look for that in her chart. And in fact, I already know where it is in her chart. In 2005, she published a children's book, Girls Hold Up This World, which landed at #2 in the New York Times bestseller list. Along with her husband, Will Smith, she has a production company, has produced credits in films, documentaries, and television series. In 2010, she earned a nomination for the Tony Award for Best Musical as producer for the Broadway musical Fella. So there we are on that. So what I'll do is I will stop the share on that. There we go. And let's then look at her birth chart, where we will see all of that in there. So let's click on that. Share here. And then let's get up her chart here. Voila. And we're going to dive in. Right, let me just kind of move. There we go. Just get this. Move that out to the side a bit. Move this down a bit. There we are. And here we are. So here is her chart. Here is her chart. So Jada Pinkett Smith was born on the 18th of September 1971 in Baltimore at 12:38 p.m. Yeah. So if we look here, we see that she is a Scorpio rising. Of course, in tropical Western astrology, she'll be considered a Sagittarius, but really she's a Scorpio. And already when you hear that ascendant and you think of the intrigues and mysteries in her life, doesn't that already make a lot of sense? Yeah. Scorpio, along with Pisces and along with the sign of Cancer, are referred to as Brahmin. They're Brahmin signs or Brahmin ascendants. What does that mean? So in the kind of hierarchical class of ancient India, contemporary India says they've thrown off that yoke now, but it still kind of applies. But let me know in the comments if you're Indian and let me know. But essentially, the Brahmin class is considered the priestly class. It's the priestly class. Why? Because water as an element is the most sensitive element. It's the most spiritual element of them all. It's the most sensitive. It's the most adaptable. As we understand, water also has many forms as well. It's one of the, when it's below zero, it is a solid. When it is above zero, most of the time it is a liquid. Once it gets close to 100 degrees, it can become a vapor, a gas. It's adaptable. It is versatile. However, the Scorpio ascendant, along with the Aquarius ascendant, are said to have the most karma. Why? The karma for Aquarius ascendants is that they are fated and destined to serve others. That's what they have to do. And it's part of their soul contract because it deals with the group, the community, etc. All of these things. In my D9 chart, in my Navamsha chart, in my second half of life chart, I've got 4 planets in Aquarius. So, as I understood my chart, over the years, I was like, well, I have a duty. I have a duty to what? Serve the world or community in some kind of way, irrespective of people are listening or not, doesn't matter. That's what I'm here to do, and that's very much what my second half of life of chart is, and that's why I just keep going and going and going, because for me it's all about sharing my passion and energy for Vedic astrology. Now with Scorpio, it is a little bit different. So sometimes I refer to Scorpio as angel and devil, or good cop, bad cop, which I sometimes refer to Saturn that way. But really, all Scorpios have this good cop, bad cop thing going on, because Scorpio is a sign of intrigue. It just is. Scorpio deals with what? The machinations. Scorpio is the natural 8th sign of the zodiac. So it deals with going deep. It deals with transformation. It deals with sex, death, and rock and roll. How many times have you heard me say that? In fact, I've actually sometimes heard that phrase repeated on other channels. So thank you for sharing that, even if I didn't necessarily get a credit. Anyway, whatever, nobody owns these things, but that's how I consistently refer to the 8th house, because it's true. It deals with sex, death, and rock and roll. So Scorpio as a sign is intense. It is deep. It is multifaceted. It is multi-layered. It can be very complex. Everyone, of course, knows about the shadow of Scorpio, isn't it? The intrigues, the revenge. Yeah, the revenge. But also as well, Scorpio is about deep, deep transformation. Anyone who has a Scorpio ascendant will have deep transformations in their life. They cannot avoid them. That's that kind of fated part of it. People who have bona fide Scorpio ascendants, and even with the moon in Scorpio or the sun in Scorpio, they're here for transformation and change, but particularly as well with the Scorpio ascendant, because it's literally the body is being born into the waters of Scorpio. If we think, for example, and also as well, I'm starting to associate Scorpio a lot with politics, with the more the machinations kind of side, the tactical side. Scorpio is ruled by Mars. When Mars is in Aries, which is his masculine expression, that's much more like the warlike energy, bombastic, blowing things up, going in, recklessness. This is why as well, when I said when Jupiter entered sidereal Aries, which it did earlier on in the year, I think it was around March, April, I forget now. And I said, didn't I? I said, oh, I'll have to see. I'm hoping it's going to kind of help out with, the Ukraine war and conflict and stuff. But I said we could have conflicts kick off in other places. It's very likely. We have the situation in Niger. I think there's more stuff going on in Sudan. And of course, most recently, we have the Israel and Palestine conflict. So Aries is very bombastic. Scorpio is the feminine expression of Mars, and this goes a lot deeper. This is much more about the internal world. Scorpio is a lot more quiet than bombastic Aries. This is where they say in when Mars is in Aries, he is the soldier. He's out there on the field fighting, battling, swinging the sword, what have you, on horseback. Yeah, most likely, because Ashwini Nakshatra is within Aries, and Ashwini is associated with horses. Here in his feminine expression, it becomes far more strategic, far more based on tactics, machinations of the mind, and working stuff out. So if we think, for example, as you've heard me say before, Joe Biden is a triple Scorpio, just like Jada Pinkett Smith. Different planets, but nonetheless, there's 3 Scorpio here: the ascendant, and she's got Jupiter and Neptune. And if we think about Joe Biden, for contrast, you'll notice that he's relatively quiet. In general, his demeanor actually is quite quiet, but we understand there is a lot going on. Many have underestimated him. And as you know, as I'm always saying, never underestimate a Scorpio, a true one. Yeah, he's a real one. And so is Jada, because they have a lot of internal resources. They think of a lot of things. It is actually a sign that deals a lot with insecurity, believe it or not. But because Scorpio is insecure, because remember, the scorpion goes into its burrow, and most of the time it hides and it only comes out at night. You know, scorpions are nocturnal animals. And they tend to sting when they're cornered. So because they're very sensitive, because they understand, they have a natural affinity, understanding of life and death, and they understand that life is a precarious thing. They try and figure out all sorts of different scenarios. Whereas the Aries is very youthful and bold and just goes out there. Aries in many ways is like the Fool card in tarot. So if we look here, she has Jupiter and Neptune in the first house. So this is very significant. First of all, what is Neptune? Neptune is the higher octave of Venus, as you would have heard me say before, but many other astrologers, of course, say the same. That's not my concept. So it's the higher octave of Venus. So Venus is what? Planet of the arts, beauty. It deals with, you know, food, relaxation, resuscitation, rejuvenation, wealth, assets of all kinds. One of the things I say is that Neptune can also deal with opulent wealth. He really can. Particularly as well, I think it was when I was doing research for the book that I've written, and I still need to. The book will come out, by the way. Don't worry, guys. So much work has been done already. Of course, it's finished. And I put it through the beta reading stage, and now I just need to add all of the stuff that my beta readers have been talking about. As you know, I've been traveling a lot. Also, as well, I find it more tricky when Saturn is retrograde. He's going direct soon, so I'm glad for that. That will give me a nice push and clear the decks a little bit. Anyway, so I write about the Saudi royal family. So because they're connected, Neptune deals with liquids of all kinds, gases of all kinds, even deals with all kinds of drugs, psychedelics, pharmaceuticals. Yes, a very multi-layered, complicated planet. And you know, the shadow of Neptune is what? Gaslighting, scandal, yeah, scandal, secrets, the unreal appearing real. But it's very useful if you happen to be in special effects. But what is Neptune as well? The positive side, spirituality. Neptune dissolves the boundary between the three-dimensional world and the realms beyond. Also as well, and this is very relevant as well, also Neptune deals with what? Film, photography, movies, all of that stuff, the silver screen. Neptune, of course, is movies and television. Yeah. Why? Think about when all of this stuff was invented. There's something else I put in the book as well. When Neptune entered sidereal Pisces, where he is back now. You see, look, Neptune is back over here where it says TR. This is transits. So we're having a new spiritualist movement begin. When Neptune moved into sidereal Pisces, which was over 160 years ago, now that's when the Fox sisters started, you know, their thing in terms of the seances and all that stuff. Then we had the Madame Blavatsky. Then we had, of course, Edgar Cayce and all of those people that came later on. When Neptune moved into Aries, which is always pioneering something new, that's when that liquid technique of photography began. It was invented when Neptune was in sidereal Pisces, but the liquid technique, you know, with the silver nitrate and all of that kind of stuff, because remember, he's the god of the sea, deals with all liquids. That is when, and the negative, rather than the glass plates covered in that powder, that's when Neptune, in terms of photography and stuff, really started to come into its own. And then, of course, the rest is history. From that, we had the Lumiere brothers, who then created, you know, the animated boxes, and then film. So one of my nicknames for Neptune is Hollywood. La 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 la. Yeah. So here, Jada Pinkett Smith, as an actress or actor, however, whatever the thing is to say these days, and a TV host and presenter, this is very appropriate. What it does as well, it also gives her beauty. Of course, Neptune in the first house will bestow a certain type of beauty, but it will be a more otherworldly, slightly ethereal, and a more of an unusual beauty. I mean, Jada, of course, is beautiful, but in a more unconventional way. She's very exotic. She has an extremely exotic look to her. To me, she almost looks kind of feline and sort of antelope together. She's also got Jupiter in the first house as well, which is a blessing. Jupiter is strong in the sign of Scorpio, and Jupiter can also give beauty as well, and a sort of a charisma and a magnetism. So she has ethereal beauty and charisma and magnetism as well. Is it any wonder, of course, that she's got her own show as a TV host, which of course is no small deal. However, whenever a person has got Neptune in the first house, people can sometimes project their fantasies onto them. So this is also a combination as well for models as well. If the person is a model, having Neptune in the first house certainly doesn't hurt. Even Saturn in the first house or in the second house can do it as well, because Saturn gives the bone structure. Yeah. So I would argue, Saturn, most models might have that combination, but I've not been able to kind of prove that yet with research. Venus, of course, in the first house will definitely do it, but that's a softer beauty. Neptune in that first house will give that more unconventional beauty, and then Jupiter is giving her that glow. So whenever Jupiter's in the first or the second house, a person will have a certain glow to their look and their complexion. He will just, because Jupiter is a planet, even though he's very far from the sun, that gives off more light than it actually receives. And I think that is true as well for Neptune as well, actually. I think it's true for Neptune as well. Neptune is a planet of mystery. It's a very mysterious planet. And of course, Jada is a little bit of a mystery in of herself. Let's not forget, though, that let's remember planets are people. So wherever the planets are, they also speak about concrete manifestations, etc. Now, Jupiter in a person's chart represents the significant men in their life, even for males, yeah? Because Jupiter is secondary characteristics of the father and can also be a very significant influential brother or son. But the conventional understanding for Jupiter, particularly as well in a woman's chart, in a heterosexual woman's chart, is Jupiter is the husband. And he really is. Yeah, Jupiter is the husband. So if we see here already, this is quite complex, because we have Jupiter, the husband, with Neptune, which can also be the planet of deception. But if we think of it just logically, it means what? The husband is involved in what? Hollywood. Starts to make sense, doesn't it, folks? So, of course, that will be Will Smith, and also as well the significant men in her life. So this will also be film directors, agents, teachers, gurus. This will also be in reference as well to some aspects to her son, but I think her son is more over here, because Mars represents siblings, real estate, land. But when a person has children, he represents sons in particular, brothers in particular for siblings, sons in particular for people. But this will also show as well that the son and the husband are unusual in some kind of way. Now, remember what I was saying about Neptune and scandals. Everyone remembers the slap. Everyone remembers the slap. And that was so unfortunate for him to taint his reputation in that way. Will Smith let down a lot of people that Oscars night, and it was the Oscars of all, of all places. And for those that don't know, it was, what was it, Oscar night? What was it, a couple of years ago now? And what's his face? The comedian was presenting. Oh my God, he's just gone out of my head. Oh, anyway, very talented, funny comedian. He made a little joke about Jada, yeah. Jada, because they've famously had this kind of like open marriage or whatever. And, you know, Will Smith, you know, says, oh, you're talking about me or my wife, gets up on the stage and slaps him in front of millions and ruined his career. I mean, obviously he's going to make films, whatever, but he forever dented his reputation. And it was what? A scandal. Truly was a scandal. Jupiter with Neptune can mean the husband is scandalous in some kind of way. It can also mean as well that the husband has secrets. I'm sure, you know, she's being accused of I think there's some skit on SNL which I want to have a little look, but I saw the sample. No, I saw the headline today, and they were talking about Jada oversharing about her marriage and stuff. Let me tell you, whatever she's sharing, she's not sharing all of it. Yeah, she's not sharing all of it because this is a very complex energy to have. Remember, this is also happening in the sign of Scorpio, so it also shows that the husband is powerful, influential. Of course, he's A grade. Will Smith, as we know, you know, there's a tiered system in Hollywood. He is A-list star, or at least he was. And I mean, he's still A-list now, but until, you know, the slap. So you can see here, this is a complicated thing. It can also show as well that, you know, maybe sometimes the husband as well may get into a little bit of revenge, like he did with, Chris Brown, was it? Yeah. Oh, I can't remember the comedian. Anyway, but if we look here as well, it shows that she is also actually a very devoted person, because if we look here, her Neptune and her Jupiter are in Anuradha Nakshatra, and that means to follow Radha. And Radha was the one that sacrificed herself for Krishna so that he may survive and recover from the illness that was going to take him. He was going to die. And she went through all the trials and tribulations of hell until she completed all of her tasks. And the gods were so impressed, they named that part of the sky after her. So Anuradha deals with deep, deep spirituality and devotion. Sometimes the commitment can be too deep. This is the part of Scorpio that may be too committed, may give too much to someone or something or a cause. Yeah, because remember, Scorpio is the most committed of all of the signs of the zodiac. It genuinely is. So in the sense here, there can be a sense of where Jada may feel like she's given too much to her marriage. And have you noticed how it's kind of dragged on, hasn't it? They've not divorced, and they shouldn't if they're happy, kind of living these kind of separate lives and stuff like that. But isn't it extraordinary? In it, there's still that bond there, even though she's saying, "Well, we kind of broke up in 2016 or whatever it was." The point is, they still presented to the world as a happily married couple. So it shows that here that the bond with the husband here is extremely strong, because the husband is quite literally in the body. The first house represents the top of the head, but also the whole body. So you can see this, her life is almost inextricably linked with Will Smith and, of course, Hollywood and the movies. Yeah. There we are. So let's see what her ascendant is. Yeah, it's all in Anuradha. So ascendant in Anuradha, Neptune and Jupiter. And look here, look as well. Look at that Jupiter and that Neptune. That's what I call a perfection. They are exactly conjunct. Neptune is at 7 degrees and 12 minutes. Jupiter is at 7 degrees 30 minutes. They're exactly on top of each other. I mean, they could, if you want to be super precise, but they're at the same degree. So that boosts, they're boosting each other even more. And as well, when we look here as well, we need to remember as well that Jupiter and Neptune are both co-rulers of Pisces. So she is very, very spiritual. Now, if we go over here, we'll skip the second house, nothing in the second house. We'll talk about the third house. Now, if we look here, she has an exalted Mars. If we see here, let's find it, MA Mars, you see in Capricorn, exalted in Shravana Nakshatra. There with Rahu. And again, look how close that Rahu is to that Mars. This is a very extreme combination. Very extreme. Now, what we need to understand is Mars is what? Mars isn't just war and conflict and stuff. Mars also deals with logic, problem solving, engineers of all kinds. Jada Pinkett Smith, I mean, it'd be very obvious because we've read a Wikipedia, but what I can see here from her chart, she is extremely hardworking and exceptionally professional. Anyone who has an exalted Mars, they can work and work and work and work. So she's definitely a workaholic without a doubt, because Rahu is here boosting it, making it even stronger. Look at the degrees. Look, it's within 3 degrees. Her Mars is at 18 degrees 58 minutes, which is basically 19 degrees, and it was in fact within a degree and a half. And if we look here, her Rahu is at 20 degrees 34 minutes. So it's basically they're only at, no, in fact, it's, what am I talking about? They're half a degree apart. So that's a perfection again. So what is Rahu deals with the exotic. Rahu deals with the extremes. Rahu, the shadow of Rahu deals with liars and deceits and all that stuff. So she's probably had to face her fair share of sharks in Hollywood, but she can just almost outwork everyone. No wonder she's got her own show and doing all of this stuff and is a producer and does this and does that. She must be exceptionally organized. One would have to be successful at that level, doing so many things. But if we look here, the giveaway here is that this is the third house. And what is the third house all about? The third house deals with desire, passion. It's a Kama house, not karma, Kama. Kama, which is a house of desire. The 11th house is similar as well. And I think the 7th house is a Kama house as well. Now, in fact, the 7th house is a marker house, which can mean end of life. Anyway, but going back here, what's the third house? The third house, so it deals with desire. So it deals with ambition, desire, passion, energy. It deals a lot, of course, with education and communication, because the third house will have the energy of Gemini, which is the third sign. And what is this also about? It is also about entrepreneurs, self-made money, acquired skills, deals with the thinking mind, but it also deals with musicians, artisans, and entertainers of all kinds. Voila. So she has that exalted Mars, which is exaggerated even further by that Rahu. So is it any wonder that she's been so successful? I would say from here, I would say she's got extraordinary discipline. However, as well, it would also suggest as well that her temper could be extreme. I doubt she explodes, because if we look here now, because she is Scorpio rising, it means Mars is the ruler of her chart. So even though Jupiter and Neptune are driving the bus, yeah, wherever the ruler of the chart goes shows where the emphasis is. So for her, Mars goes to the third house. So of course, entertainers of all kinds and stuff. She's a chat show host. So literally her whole shtick is communication, talking, filming, acting, performing, music. Multi-talented. She's multi-talented, of course. But also as well, it also shows as well, it means the ruler of the chart is also exalted. So that boosts her ascendant all the more. Very, very, very strong. So she's gifted, she's talented, and she's an extremely hard worker, but she's not someone you would want to cross. I doubt very much Jada is someone that would have a showdown with you. She would just make a few strategic moves and you're done. Yeah. You would find out later, maybe on your deathbed, you'll find out who was the one that slipped the poison into. Bit like that, what was it? There was that scene in Game of Thrones. As much as I enjoy that, I could only watch three series of it. I just found it too engrossing, and then I was getting to, it was just a bit too violent for me. But nonetheless gripping. And there was a bit with Diana Rigg's character, and she got this revenge on Cersei. But the guy, the brother, the incestuous brother had come to kill her. And she sits there, you know, almost like the archetype of Scorpio. And she's deadpan calm. And she says, okay, is this my end? Is it, you know, how is it to be? And like the guy passes her, you know, some hemlock or something like that, some poison. But she basically confesses her sins. And she just says, I want you to know, when I am dead, pass this message to Cersei and tell her, I did it. I poisoned Joffrey. I think it was whoever was one of the children. And that can be how Scorpio can be at its deepest, particularly in Anuradha. So it's not unnecessarily an explosive energy, but it waits. Yeah, Scorpio waits for its time. So this is why you shouldn't piss off Scorpios, yeah? Especially Jada Pinkett Smith, because, you know, she's got incredible discipline and patience, but her anger could be almost volcanic in nature. What I would call white hot rage, but it will be more within. She can do it with her eyes, with a, you know, with a look, with her body language, and just one or two words, you are beheaded. Yeah. Rahu, after all, is the beheaded one, and Mars is the warrior, exalted. Yeah, in the house of speech. My God, this woman can just shred anyone. If we look up here, though, now in the fifth house, this is that deals with children and creativity. So of course she's a very, very creative person. We know that. Jupiter is in the first house, so the Lord of the fifth and the second. So again, that is a wealth yoga, by the way, is in the first. So of course, you know, she doesn't lack money. Yeah, she's good there. It also shows as well how, in a way, how her family is also part of her career. Of course, you know, her children are already very prominent. I forget their names, but they're already very prominent. This is also giving her a blessing as well in regards to her children as well. It's showing that the children will be successful. However, when we look here, though, she's got Chiron in the fifth house. Now, Chiron is what? The wounded healer. And what I found is this. Wherever Chiron is, I'm always saying this to my clients, it will show whether we've received a wound in life. It could be physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, or financial. Sometimes all of those five. So what this can speak about, it can suggest that maybe one of the children is wounded in some kind of way. And I think this is the sun. Yeah. Why? Because if we look here, Mars, which of course can represent suns, is with Rahu, and Rahu represents extremes. Remember, Rahu represents extremes. Rahu is the exotic, the unusual. And if we think the sun in particular is particularly unusual and exotic, he plays around, of course, with the gender of his clothes and stuff like that, which everyone does these days, you know, big whoop. But that's very much a thing. He is more than able to embrace that feminine side. Sometimes he wears makeup, sometimes he doesn't, a bit like a Harry Styles. What we also need to remember as well, many people think that Capricorn is a masculine sign. It isn't. Even though it deals with ambition and hierarchy and hard work and graft, it isn't. Remember, all water signs and earth signs are feminine, all fire signs and air signs are masculine. So this actually deals with the highest of the feminine expressions. So when Mars is exalted, ironically, when it's with Rahu, I would say, when it's with Rahu, which brings that unusual element, the sun can be androgynous. The sun can be androgynous. Or, for example, men that have a Capricorn ascendant, for example, which I think David Bowie does. They can I mean, they're still masculine, but they will play with that because it is it's a very feminine sign. It can also be for women that are Capricorn ascendant, they can be exceedingly beautiful. Sometimes Saturn will just beauty bomb a woman who's got a Capricorn ascendant and just give her the bone structure and everything. You know, people will just die with envy, you know, for these people because, you know, they give their, it's like, I think, I'll have to double check, but if you think of someone like a Vivian Lee, for example, for those of you who know who she is, extraordinarily beautiful. I would also have to maybe look at a Naomi Campbell as well, but for me, she has a very Saturnine look. Those feel like, you know, the angles, yeah. Saturn will give the angles, so, and the cheekbones. So here, what this is suggesting is that the sun, because Rahu is here, the sun could have an unusual or an exotic persona, and have a kind of a feminine streak there. It doesn't mean he's gay or whatever, or he could be bi or whatever. This stuff doesn't matter. This stuff doesn't matter, especially these days. It doesn't matter, and that's a good thing. But it will show that there will be that energy there, that there might be an androgyny there. If Rahu wasn't there, he would probably be an engineer, or in the army, armed forces, that kind of stuff. But Rahu will add that exotic element, and Rahu is said to be a feminizing element as well, ironically. And you can see here, look, there's right on top of each other. But also as well, with that Chiron in the 5th house, sometimes that can show, sometimes maybe having a struggle, having some children. Sometimes it can mean maybe losing a child, sometimes through miscarriage. That can happen, not always. But if we take this in the more obvious sense, it means one of the children is potentially wounded. And from what I understand, the son, didn't he divorce his parents? Let me see how we're doing on time. Okay, 40 minutes in. I think he, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he divorced. Didn't he divorce the parents or something like that? Anyway, I think he's living independently now anyway. So you can see that element there. So we know that this ascendant is correct because, of course, it's happening in the 5th house and it strongly correlates with her sun. Now, if we look over here, this I can see is why this marriage has lingered. Yeah, why are they still together? So if we look here, Saturn is in the 7th house in a friendly sign of Taurus. So let's not forget Saturn, who I call Balloon Popper, Mercury and Venus, they're all friends and they all do well in each other's signs. Except Venus technically debilitates in the sign of Virgo. She's delighted, but not as delighted as the debilitation of Mars in the sign of Cancer. When Venus is debilitated, it gives issues with relationships, particularly marriage. Yeah, so bear that in mind. Remember that when I get round, and you'll see. But here, Saturn is strong. Saturn actually gets Digbala, directional strength, in the 7th house, where technically the sun weakens. Yeah, the 7th sign of the zodiac is, of course, Libra. And this is why the sun always struggles in Libra, but the sun also struggles a bit in the 7th house. So the 7th house will have that energy of Libra or Venus. Here, her 7th house is under the auspices of Taurus, but it's still the 7th house and it still belongs to Venus, which of course is a planet of marriage. Now, what is Saturn? Why does Saturn do well in the 7th house? Saturn deals with what? Bonds, yeah, duties, responsibilities, restrictions of all kinds. Saturn, of course, is also a planet of grace, discipline, hard work, planet of greatness. And what I found is this: anyone who has Saturn in the 7th house, even in debilitation, will feel a very strong sense of duty and responsibility to their marriage, to their partnerships. So I can see here with Jada, her word is her bond. So when she gave her vows, she meant it. Yeah, I'm not saying that Will didn't, because, you know, obviously, I mean, there's still, I don't think they're divorced. They're just separated, aren't they? The marriage is still persevering even after the two of them aren't together. Do you see? They can't quite sever that bond, because here Saturn will also be aspecting Jupiter, the husband. So Will obviously feels the same way. Obviously, they, you know, look, they've been married a long time. You know, they're probably, you know, deep friends. Obviously, there's still a lot of love there, but they've reached an agreement where, you know, where they're no longer kind of physically together in that way. And she's just launched, obviously, her book and memoir, and I think she was talking about Britney Spears, I think, has got a memoir out as well. I need to catch up. This is when I was just scrolling through for the stories, but here we see a tremendous commitment. Here as well, Saturn is very comfortable in the sign of Taurus. This is probably one of the few signs where you will see Saturn let his hair down a little bit. He loves Venus. The way they say, wherever whenever Saturn looks at Venus, they say his heart melts. Saturn starves whatever planet's with, so it's better to have him on his own, and she's luckily got him on his own. He will even starve Venus, but I always say he gives her a little bit of chocolate because he loves her that much. When he's in Taurus, this is where Saturn, where discipline and materialism bring terrific results. Of course, she's been immensely successful, but she's also wealthy. I'm sure she's got plenty of property. She's probably got great idea as well and sense of what food, diet, nutrition. Look at that glowing skin. Yeah, you don't get that eating McDonald's every day. Although even though the odd Mickey D's McDonald's, can get one out of a tight corner, especially when one is abroad in a foreign country where the language and the food may not be suiting. I used to sneer at McDonald's once upon a time, and then once I really started to travel, and then I was like, sometimes I find myself running to those golden arches. But anyway, that's my little confession. But only occasionally, not too often, because obviously we know it's not good for you in the long run. Anyway, so here, and here as well, we see there is a deep sensuality to her as well. Why? Because this Saturn is in the nakshatra of Rohini. Rohini is known as the former reddish one. And this deals with the fertility and the fecundity and the imagination of Taurus. Now, let's not forget as well, Taurus is the natural second sign of the zodiac and also deals with what? The voice. So of course this is also giving her singing abilities as well. I don't know what she's like as a singer, but I'm sure whenever she is singing, she's very diligent, very accurate with her work. But also as well, Rohini is said to be the most sensuous part of Taurus, and it can also be very seductive. So it shows Jada has this tremendous facility for modesty, which is Saturn, but also as well has this ability to seduce when she wants to. So she can turn on a certain feminine charm that many men will struggle to resist. Maybe some women as well. She could have whoever she wants, basically. Obviously, Saturn being here, he's going to be dutiful, he's going to be responsible. So she's probably quite relatively discreet with these things, but she has it. She has a bit of the siren energy here, even though it's Saturn, which is a cold and dry planet. It doesn't matter. It also shows as well that she's very disciplined and strategic in her relationships as well. Of course, the seventh house also deals with the reputation, public reputation. Negotiations, also deals with business. Saturn is a business planet, and of course she's a businesswoman. Yeah, very savvy. She knows how to negotiate. She knows how to get things done. And rather than use anger, she'll use her wiles. She's more likely to use seduction or titillation or a smoothness. She will have a smoothness, but yet this steely determination of Saturn in terms of her negotiations. So she may look fey and ethereal on the surface, but she's a hard negotiator. She knows what she's doing. Very, very good for business. There you are. This is also someone as well that you don't want to see in a divorce courts because she'll win, which is probably another reason why Will hasn't done anything, because she could take it to that absolute cleaner. She knows where all the bodies are buried. Anyway, if we look here, she in her ninth house, she has K2, so she's got a tremendous spirituality there too as well. She's got Ceres here as well, which is what? Love and devotion. But Ceres, I found, also represents what? Demeter, the original goddess of harvest, Persephone, the famous daughter that was abducted, and Hades, the abductor. So this can deal with getting having something and then fearing losing it, or losing something and trying to get it back. The ninth house also deals with the father. So what this says, now I don't know about her father or her mother, because obviously I didn't read down that far on the Wikipedia, but I can see here this would suggest some kind of separation from the father. K2 is a separating force. However, because this is also the sign of Cancer, could show the father as well, could also be very spiritual in some way, would have been potentially a nurturing figure, or definitely maybe the paternal grandmother would have also been potentially significant as well, because I found Ceres represents the matriarchal line like the moon, but can be great grandmother, grandmother, mother and daughter energy. This is what I found, particularly here when it's in the sign of Cancer. So it would suggest the father was very sensitive as well, very deeply sensitive, intuitive, spiritual. It's in the nakshatra Aslesha, and Aslesha is about mysticism. But the shadow of Aslesha can also do with poison and being unable to let go. So there may be some element here where, I don't know if the father is still alive, but there could be a strong bond there. But if she ever lost her father, she would be still able to communicate with him even in the afterlife. So there's something interesting or mysterious about the father that maybe that kind of doesn't say kind of very much, because Ketu is a mute planet after all, but could be deeply nurturing in some way. But there could be that element where, or it could come out in the shadow form, which there could be psychological issues or control issues or not wanting to let go. But in any case, when she does her research, she really goes deep, and she's probably got some kind of spiritual practice. It wouldn't surprise me at all if she's into meditation, yoga, and, scripture, and, Buddhism, and all sorts of stuff. This can give one a deep interest in spirituality. If we look here, the moon in her chart is with Mercury. Now, of course, the moon represents the mother. But here it is in the 10th house, which means the mother could be significant, impactful, could have her own career. But I always say, whenever the moon is in Leo, the moon is wearing a crown. So sometimes it can be my way or the highway when the mother is wearing a crown, or the mother is queen in some kind of way. So it could be the case that Jada Pinkett Smith may model herself a bit on her mother, assuming, I don't know if the mother is alive or dead, but here the mother will be impactful. If we look here as well, we've got Mercury here, which is also the planet of acting. And look at both signs, both planets, they're both in Leo. Now, you guys may remember me saying in previous videos, whenever Mercury or Uranus aspects the moon, it speeds it up. Or by sign. So whenever the moon is in Gemini, speeds up the moon. Whenever the moon is in Virgo, speeds up the moon. Whenever Mercury is opposite the moon, or the moon is opposite Uranus, or Uranus is with the moon. But here we see, look, she's got moon and Mercury together. Her mind is always going. But in what context? It's in Leo, which is the sign of what? Showbiz, leadership, performing. She's a female leader. She talks a lot about what? Female empowerment, leadership, etc. Look at the nakshatra. You see here, it's in Purva Falguni. So if we look here, do you see? Let's just click across. Mercury is in Purva Falguni, and so is the moon. Guess what Purva Falguni is famous for? Actors, artists, performers of all kinds. Purva Falguni is one of the most creative nakshatras. Famously, Madonna's got some planets in Purva Falguni as well. So you will see this again and again and again. People in showbiz and all this kind of stuff, there's often a Purva Falguni in there. Even us lot YouTubers, you will often see that Purva Falguni is an element, because Purva Falguni is the front legs of the hammock or the cot, and it does a lot with the pleasure principle. The Falgunis are very nice nakshatras. They're the ones that really, they're very playful. They also deal with marriage and love and romance, particularly Purva Falguni. So we see that element there where there is and look, she's in the 10th house. So we can see she's an actor for her career. Moon is the emotions, and Mercury is what? Mimicry. Whenever a person has got Mercury strong, they often end up in showbiz. It just gives a flair in front of the camera. And of course, they need to be a good talker. If we think of a certain Duc Larange, yeah, remember him? Well, he's got his Mercury, remember from the sidereal position, is in Gemini in his 11th house. What's he been able to do? Seduce everyone with his speech. He was what? On reality TV. He's a showman. Yeah, should have stayed in his lane. It would have been happier. Honestly, if he hadn't become president, I'm telling you, he would have been able to carry on with his wily ways. But anyway, such is life. Let me see how I'm doing on time. So we can see here, look, this is part of her profession. That's the moon gives the emotions, the intuitive abilities and skills. And of course, Mercury literally gives the actual talent and the skills, the mimicry, the ability to do accents and all of that kind of stuff. So if we go down here to her 11th house, so we can see she's extremely well connected. All producers need to be. She's got the Sun, Pluto, Venus, and Uranus all in Virgo. So here, so she's a Virgo. So of course she's detail oriented, very good at organization, all of that kind of stuff. You will notice here that all of these planets here, Sun, Pluto, and Venus, are all in Uttara Falguni, which is the back legs of the cot. This deals with marriage, but also deals with friendship as well in particular. And it also means that the management of a kingdom as well. So we can see here, because this is also in Virgo and in the 11th house, which deals with what? Great gains and friends. Her Rolodex, as we used to say back in the day, her contacts list will be extraordinary. I can see from here, she knows everyone. She's met anyone who's anyone in Hollywood she's met. She's either got their number or, you know, she's been around in Hollywood for a long time. This would make her obviously a brilliant producer because she knows everyone. Here you got the Sun here, which is also what's showing the kingdom that we're building this lifetime, whether we're aware of it or not, closely conjunct Pluto. Here, the Venus is here. Now, remember what I said about Venus? Do you remember what I said when Venus is debilitated, it can give issues with marriage. So if we look here, there's Venus in Virgo. So when we look at this from the perspective of her marriage, we can see the marriage is unusual. Yeah, and there's been power struggles. Yes, the marriage is significant because, of course, Venus is with the Sun, which often happens. But the Sun is a sacrificing principle. So when the Sun and Venus are together, remember, they're not friends. So a person can feel they might have to sacrifice their marriage for their career, or their careers or their relationship. Their marriage might impact on their career. I am sure there is an element within Jada where she may feel that, well, if we think about it, that she's been what? Overshadowed. You know, she's always been, you know, the wife of Will Smith. Yes, she's had obviously a great career, but I suspect there's a part of her that feels her career would have been maybe more significant had she not been married to Will, when I look at this. Because if we look here, so again, the Sun deals with sacrifice, and Venus is compromise. Here, Pluto and Neptune are essentially sandwiched. Basically, this Venus is sandwiched by malefics. The Sun is a mild malefic. Pluto is definitely a malefic, and so is Uranus. Yeah, they have their good sides, but they, you know, they tend to slap round the face first. Pluto is what? Power struggles. Power struggles. So this can talk about power struggles within the marriage. Yeah. Backwards and forwards, but it can also show deep intensity, deep attraction as well. But there could also be some scandals. There could be some affairs as well. So, and I think they pretty much admit to that, haven't they? Yeah, they've had an open marriage, you know, for a while, again, for entertainment purposes only. But here we can see, and again, let's not forget that Rohini. So she has an extraordinarily sensual side to her, probably quite kinky as well. Yeah. I just have to, because it's Pluto, isn't it? Pluto is what? The natural 8th house on his own, which is giving a what? Energy of what? Sex, death, and rock and roll, transformation. So it means she's interested in transformational relationships as well. She doesn't do lightweight, Jada. She doesn't do lightweight flim flam. She's all in and she's getting stuck in as well. But sometimes as well, when Venus is debilitated, it can overstimulate the libido, and sometimes a person staying faithful can be a little bit more difficult because here Venus is in debilitation. So, but it does as well give great skills for design, artistic ability, and stuff like that, because she's being imbibed with the critique of Virgo. So here, the reason why it's a bit more difficult for marriage, because ideally we're supposed to almost forgive and forget when it comes to marriage, yeah, which Venus can do when she's exalted in Pisces. But when she's in Virgo, it's a little bit more difficult because she's more detailed oriented. However, gives great skill. And if we see here is Uranus, which of course is the unusual, eccentric element. So again, it means what? An unusual or unconventional marriage, which I'm sure we can all agree is the case with Jada Pinkett Smith. If we look here quickly at her Navamsha, let me just see how I'm doing on time. Oh, I've got 1 minute left. So if we look at her Navamsha, we see she's Libra rising. Libra is all about what? Culture, the arts. She's got the moon there, intuition, talent, skills, the public. So we can see obviously she loves being a writer as well, and obviously she is a chat show host. But if we look over here, her Venus becomes exalted, but it's in the 6th house. Isn't this funny? So on one hand, this is priestess energy, by the way. She really is into her spirituality big time. I call this priestess energy, but it's in the 6th house, which is what? Health and healing. She knows a lot about food and diet, but it's also the house of enemies. So we see again, even though this Venus is exalted in her second half of life chart, it is almost like there is an enemy element to the marriage as well, because Venus goes to the 6th house, which carries the energy of Virgo. So she's acting a bit debilitated, even though she's actually exalted. But this is probably why the marriage as well has persisted and lasted, because there is that element there of compassion and forgiveness. And for her, she's got Saturn debilitated in the 7th house, which again shows challenges with marriage. Saturn is debilitated, but he's in the 7th house, which is relative to Libra. So he's acting like he's exalted. Dig Bala. So do you see? There's this tug of war backwards and forwards, but her chart is a fascinating chart. It's very, very interesting. I could go on for longer, but I don't want this video to be too long. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. Just stopping the share there. Let's minimize. And of course, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you'd like a consultation with me, then you know where to go. It will be in the video description, hogarthglobalastrology.com. All right, I'm going to leave it there for now. Mwah! Big kisses. And I will see you all soon. Until the next time. Bye-bye for now. Cheers.